Let's go to Doug Hagmann of the Northeast Intelligence Network, HomelandSecurityUS.com, for the next 30 minutes or so, joining us, because I had a caller today on the show. He said, hey, Doug Hagmann was on a couple of months ago on your nightly news, and he said the October surprise would be, well, there's talk from his Homeland Security sources that they're planning to stage riots and things if Obama doesn't win. And that's the false flag to bring in the tyranny. And then we know about the 1.6 million bullets, the military saying they're getting ready for civil unrest. Now they've had police departments respond and say, well, we're not really preparing for that right now, which is pure bull, because in other press releases, they're admitting they're getting ready for civil unrest in November. They're not saying it's the election. Maybe it's an Iran strike. That's big in the news today. They're shutting down for the first time the Iranian Press TV network on European satellites. They didn't do that all the other saber-rattling times. They got 3 aircraft carriers massing. I mean, they're saying they may hit them. So there you go. There's already covert war going on there. There's already proxy war against the Russians, backing up the Syrians with NATO and Al-Qaeda, with the U.S. against the Russians and the Syrians. Totally immoral. I'm not saying the Syrian government's good or the Russians are good, but they're not the ones starting the fight and working with Al-Qaeda. So they're actually the good guys in this. You know, it's like you got really evil and then corrupt. And it's like our government's the really evil one. So all that's going on. Secret Service aware of threats against Romney. Weekly Standards. Secret Service has confirmed thousands of threats to kill Romney if he wins. This is Drudge and I got criticized, DrudgeReport.com, for reporting on this last week. Now it's all confirmed. Yes, it's real. Yes, it's happening. That doesn't stop the White House through their surrogate group, which is, Think Progress and others, openly run by funded by the White House and Soros. Well, White House has advisors in there. Why wouldn't they want to come out and say, no, rioting's wrong? Why would they just say, no one's talking about that? So Doug Hagmann, from his sources, said this could be the October surprise. Without further ado, he's got the floor here, joining us from his intelligence center, private intelligence center, advising federal and state police around the country. What is your intel now on this, since you were the first person to warn of it?
Hi, Alex. Thanks for having me on. Well, I'll tell you what, we're looking at some form of social uprising, civil unrest based on food, based on, involving food, as well as the elections. Now, we all have seen the open source reports of potential rioting, whether Obama wins or whether he loses. We've seen the threats to Romney. We've seen the economic situation decline rapidly over the past couple of months. I believe, well, from my source, we talked here recently, and he reminded me that, the French peasants stormed the Bastille back in 1789, and they weren't just revolting against the monarchy's policies; they were hungry, and this is part of the situation, according to my source. The cost of food combined with the elections, the chaos with respect to the elections, and perhaps some type of civil or some type of military conflict overseas in the Middle East, whether that be Libya now or Syria. Not so much Iran, but Syria or Libya. All of these things combined are combining now to make a perfect storm. And according to my source, the DHS is on defense right now, and it's very quiet, unusually quiet right now. So it's always quiet, obviously, before some type of operation. They're looking at perhaps having to play defense against a civil uprising, against riots, against people that are hungry. So all of these things are potentially possible.
And this is directly from your sources. By the way, for viewers out there who didn't see you come and sit in the seat and don't know that it's an anti-TSA sign, because it's cut off by you sitting in front of it. People that are ignorant would think it was you're pro-SS, a Stoonstoffel. No. Just tell folks what's behind you.
Yeah, actually, these are 2 posters that were made for us by a company. It's an anti-TSA poster.
No, I understand. With the A block, though, people will just know the armed SS Stoonstoffel symbol.
Yeah, actually, this is a poster protesting the TSA policies, and of course, the other one is the poster with respect to protesting the FEMA camps or alerting people to the FEMA camps. Actually, these are posters that were redone by a company that owns the rights to the World War II images.
Yeah, they're very, very powerful. I've seen those at gun shows. Great people. In fact, if you remember the name of the company, feel free to plug it. I knew them right when I saw them, but then I knew the Time magazine would say, with a man with SS runes behind him, Jones began to worship Hitler. The extremism was incredible. In fact, they've already taken me talking about them, the people saying they're going to kill Romney. They've already taken that and edited it out on YouTube. I was already sent it this morning, where they had me reading the tweets, and they're now saying I'm saying it, and I'm sure the Secret Service will probably show up. I mean, I tell you. But let's continue here. So I mean, you're the real deal, because I've checked it out. You've got these sources, and they're confirming what my sources are saying. And then some have said, well, that's just hype, that they're saying get ready for something, huge in November. Sure, they always tell, the police and counterterrorism people that. But I've never seen such chatter and real digging in. Let's hope this all blows by. But it's kind of like saying, you're always saying they're going to hit Iran. They're in Iran. There's already military operations in Iran. There's military operations in Syria. It just hasn't been openly, a call to war yet. Same thing here. We're already seeing food prices explode. We're already seeing more and more little riots here and there and racial attacks and things. It's in the news. It's just not in the national news.
And you've done a great job of pointing all of this out. Of course, the Syrian situation is extremely, extremely important. People have to know. They have to understand that we are fighting a proxy war against Russia. People have to understand why Stevens was murdered in Benghazi.
What's your intel on that?
Okay, and this is 100%. Verified. It's been vetted. Stevens was there. Stevens had on speed dial all the numbers for the good guys and all the numbers for the bad guys, basically.
That's what I heard, is they wanted those documents.
Exactly. And Stevens was there not to capture caches of weapons and destroy them. Stevens was there to funnel the weapons from Benghazi, or assist to facilitate the weapons funneling from Benghazi to Derna up into Turkey. And that includes the non-conventional chemical type of weapons for use by the U.S.-backed al-Qaeda forces or the U.S.-backed rebels.
To false flag blame Syria. Wow.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that's why, that is why they use this inane video as an excuse, as a cover for so long, because frankly, according to my source, military source, they could not get their act together.
Well, it looked like a professional takeover. So what's the real bottom line from your sources? Who took them out?
A professional team paid for and facilitated by the Russians. Now, exactly who, not sure.
Oh, so no wonder. That's what I've been getting from some sources, too. Yeah. No wonder they want to cover all this up, because, now it's the proxy war isn't just in the Syrian sandbox.
Yeah, and if you remember, 90 minutes before he was killed, Stevens was meeting with the Turkey consulate general in Benghazi. They could have met if it was a diplomatic meeting.
And the Russians now want to know who to kill. That's why we're seeing other people backing the al-Qaeda invasion of Syria, other ambassadors being killed, and the heads of embassies being killed. They now know who to kill.
Exactly. This whole thing was...
Doug, you just really impressed me, because I already had that from two high-level sources, but didn't want to say it because I didn't want to take the heat. And you just told something that no one else, I haven't even heard in the news.
Well, that's the information I received. It's coming from a very credible source.
Recap it all. I've been interrupting. Start at the beginning.
No, it's fine. Ambassador Stevens, who worked at the Iran desk in the CIA during his early part of his career, he developed a list of contacts, both good and bad. The good guys and the bad guys. They're all terrorists, basically, whether they're working for us or them. He was really running out of his usefulness as a covert operative in the CIA. So he was making the switch to a position of diplomacy. However, his final part, his final aspect, or his final operation was to go to Libya and meet with and set up the operation to funnel the weapons in Libya that Gaddafi had, the non-conventional weapons, specifically chemical weapons, from Benghazi to Derna, from Derna up into Turkey, ultimately for distribution in Syria to the U.S.-backed rebels in Syria for a false flag operation. Russia told the State Department, told Obama, look, don't do this. Do not do this, and sent the Turkish consulate to talk to Stevens to warn him off. Stevens says, look, we're not going to do it. No, we're going to keep doing what we got to do. I'm getting orders. We have to keep doing what we're doing. Hence the professional hit on Stevens. Once again, we are fighting a proxy war against Russia, paid for or at the behest of the globalists. Syria is Russia's red line in the sand. Syria does not want to lose Russia, because once they lose Russia, you can see where the entire southern federation of the Russian states would be in danger of.
It's their only port in the Mediterranean. They've always backed them, and now it's confirmed. They said it a month ago. It was confirmed. Top Russian general, special forces general, was killed. I mean, but think about this. You've got the Russians with the moderate Assad government that's not perfect, but was not attacking anybody, with NATO, Turkey, the United States, and others in there with al-Qaeda. That's even in the New York Times finally this week, as you know, on Monday, with shoulder-fired missiles, high-tech radar-guided. They're shooting down helicopters, heat seekers. I mean, I'm told the TSA needs to stick their hands down my pants because al-Qaeda may be hiding in there. But our government let them have 10,000 missiles, 2,000 of them heat-seeking or radar-guided. And then now our government is publicly backing al-Qaeda against the Russians. And they've reportedly, what's the intel you've got on how many Spetsnaz are in there?
Nothing specific on that, but we do know that they're present, they're active, and they're angry. How's that for a perfect storm? I don't have numbers. I just have the fact that they're present. So look, Alex, this World War III is going to start not in Iran, but in Syria. This is the fuse for World War III has been lit, in my personal opinion, based on my contacts, what they're telling me about this.
You know what's scary? The Bible says that's where it'll all start.
Yeah, death race Damascus.
Yeah, I mean, this is but I mean, what about, I've talked to a lot of police and military, and they are shook up by the fact that, wow, al-Qaeda publicly working for the bankers. It's not even our government. It's the bankers, internationalists. But I mean, now this is really waking people up, that even ABC News is saying there may be a October surprise, for the election. I mean, all the things we've talked about are now mainstream more and more. But they think the public's so dumb, and in some extents they are, that they're using al-Qaeda publicly to attack all these countries. I mean, it's just despicable.
It's horrendous. I mean, if we think about it, it's very difficult to really wrap your brain around, speaking with the general public, because it's hard to really digest and to really comprehend this. But this is the globalist agenda. This is all about money. You've been saying this for years. I mean, Steve Quayle's been saying this, you've been saying this, and a lot of people have been turned off by it until they're seeing this happen right now. And I got to tell you, it's happening right now. And with respect to the DHS and domestic situations, Alex, I got to tell you, we are right. We're in trouble. Now, a lot of people might think that, hey, if the elections go off without a hitch, there's not going to be a problem. My DHS source was telling me, look, don't hang your hat on dates, timelines necessarily. It's coming. It's coming. It's just a fluid operation. Plans change. The objectives don't.
And let's recap. The plan is the Obama controllers are planning some type of false flag. That's what your source is in DHS, directly watching the witches, as we call them, the group of female queenies that run everything up there, that they're cackling that, don't worry, you haven't seen our tricks yet. And what scares me is criminals brag. We've seen all these top Obama advisors in newspapers and in fundraising letters, saying, don't worry, we'll have a new Oklahoma or 9/11 to blame people. And now we see the TV shows coming out on ABC and NBC, the dramas where the patriots are the terrorists. So I even see the media conditioning, and we know they do that through the sitcoms and dramas and cop shows as they put the message out. That's now been admitted with federal funding. I mean, this is creepy. This is Creepville. I mean, I don't think they're going to succeed, though, when they try this. I mean, this is incredible.
Well, their greatest enemy is an informed populace, and so what you're doing right now over the next 48 hours or 40-plus hours remaining is tremendous. As long as people understand that we're being played for fools here, and right now al-Qaeda is being used by both sides essentially, but propped up through the United States. Domestically here, we're looking at it's a mathematical certainty that the economy has got to fall. Our dollar's got to collapse. We've got to see this.
By the way, let me just back you up. Former U.S. comptroller says U.S. faces fiscal abyss. AP, Reuters, you name it. Nobel Prize winner for economics, says there's a global depression. Stiglitz, based around Europe. I mean, I've got stacks. The thing is, we've already known this, and it's a mathematical certainty for 5, 6 years, they are now admitting it. What does that tell you? They don't start admitting stuff until they want to say, see, we knew. I mean, please continue.
Well, now with respect to that, according to my source, the condition for this collapse has been created, and also the solution. If we recall back in the end of August, we saw the G20 summit,
yes,
the emergency G20 summit. They already created a basket of currencies intended to replace the U.S. dollar.
SDR, and yeah, end of the dollar, yeah.
That's right. So again, this coming from my source saying, look, watch this. Again, the timeline is a little bit fluid. It's going to happen. We're going to see riots caused by the social chaos and by people hungry. So policies and hunger are going to be driving the social rioting and chaos that we're going to see that will allow the DHS and TSA to come in here, implement travel restrictions, essentially martial law. That's what we're looking at in the near future. From there, it's anyone's guess.
We've only got about 10 minutes left with you. Hopefully sometime during the 48-hour transmission through Saturday morning, we can have you back on or back on next week or maybe Sunday on the official radio show. But, I mean, look, folks, I'm not just up here saying this. Doug's not up here just saying this. This is everything we've talked about is now manifesting. We saw it over the horizon. Now it's on our street. It's across the street from us. This is now not a joke. And I want to just tell police, military, and everybody else something. I'm your friend. The public, I'm your friend. I just want freedom and prosperity in America. The globalists are the enemy, and they are going to stage false flags, you name it. They want to get us in a civil war. Look, you don't want that. I don't want that. I mean, they really are ruthless, and they've done this in Russia. They've done it in Germany. They've done it in China. The globalists have done this. They brag in the IMF World Bank documents that Joseph Stiglitz, when he left the World Bank in 2002, how they implode economies, want people to riot, want governments to fall, and then people beg for tyranny after that. This is a major social engineering operation, and this is the end of America if we let them do this. This is world government announced by these mega banks, these criminals. And now even Obama and the mega banks are fighting with the hedge fund hyenas. That's now, I mean, so that's when you know you're in trouble, is when the elites in the Anglo-American Western establishment are fighting with each other. What's your information on that?
I've got information. Surprisingly, I've got information that there's a quiet war, if you will, between the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds, where one is claiming, dominion over the other, or that they're fighting for this dominion. Whereas now it's the Rothschilds that appear to be controlling the agenda. Alex, I don't even know if I'm correct on that. I'm just relating what I've heard. So, you're more the expert in that venue. I don't know if that sounds correct, but
well, no. I mean, actually, what happened 3 months ago was they called it a merger. The Rothschilds took over the Rockefellers' interest, because they were Rothschild agents but became their own operatives for a while. And that's the info we've got. In fact, there was even a London Independent article about how they're the richest people in the world, the Rothschilds. They lost a suit claiming they weren't. They said, don't say we are, but then it came out they were, and had all these puppets, basically. But yeah, that was actually in all the major news that anybody can type it. Rothschilds and Rockefellers merge. Well, no, they didn't merge. It was the European elite is fully taking America over. The center of this New World Order is Europe. That doesn't mean the Europeans are our enemy. People say, Alex, how dare you say the British Empire is the model for world government, you anti-Brit. Hey, man, my name's Jones, okay? I mean, most of my ancestors are from England. It's not like I'm just, the British people have been used with their strength and ingenuity to empower the Rothschild system.
Yeah, and you're exactly correct. And now that gives me some context from which my source had given this information. So yeah, and it's openly reported. And that I think this is something now where and if we use all this open source reporting, all of what's going on right now, everyone, the globalists, they're becoming more brazen. Their masks are coming off. The objectives appear to be closer at hand than ever before. So, whether or not something happens in the next 10 days or 20 days or, a month, it's going to happen.
Yeah, this is economic warfare. It's the 21st century takeover model backed up with military force.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And we are products, or we are owned by the banks, as you often say, the 6 major banks. This is a fact, and it's coming down. Look, there's nothing more than for instance, the Department of Homeland Security would want to see right now. And I say this not the boots on the ground, but the upper echelon, than the social chaos. Because remember, back in the 1992 L.A. riots, Rodney King riots, 6-day period, there was 53 people that were killed, over 2,000 people injured, and $1 billion in property damage. Just think about that in every major city all across America, and even spreading into rural America.
They call that the IMF riot in the documents that came out when Stiglitz quit. He says he didn't release them. Nobel Prize winner. Yeah, right. But the point is that he's been on the show. They call it the IMF riot. It's a 112-point plan, but one of the first points is they want the collapse, exactly what your source is telling you.
Exactly. I mean, and there's no other way. And let's throw FEMA camps in here, or refugee centers in here. Where are the people who are unprepared? Where are they going to go to get food? They're hungry. You go to a FEMA camp, a refugee center, or a center where they'll give you food. What are you going to have to give in exchange for the food?
Well, your guns. But it's worse than that. As you know, we saw New Orleans and other disasters as the model. They leave all the poor people just to starve or whatever and order the troops in to high and dry, literal $10 million, $15 million houses. Anybody that hadn't seen the news, just type in gun confiscation New Orleans into YouTube. And they went to because I've got an architecture book that showed those houses. That's how I knew. Those houses that look like the White House.
Yeah.
It used to be one of the richest cities in the country, New Orleans, still is to a certain extent, but it was rivaling New York for a while, 100 years ago or more. These are giant mansions, and they would blow the safes open and steal their guns and handcuff the owners. And it's on the news. So the problem is they're going to try to send out the troops to areas where we've got generators, we've got food, we've got guns, we're fine. We got tents. We're having a holiday here, and they're going to take our stuff, bro. Do the police realize at a certain point this won't be like New Orleans and places like Texas and stuff? People aren't going. I mean, everybody I know, you try to take me to some FEMA camp, boy, you got a problem. And we're not looking for a fight, but you better not push it.
No, you're exactly right. And according to my source, look, he's in contact with, he has access to the high-level DHS sources, but he's also in contact with boots on the ground. The boots on the ground are a little bit more, they know what's going on. They're not liking it. Some, or I would say the majority, understand that this is the entire situation is wrong. However, how many of those people are going to follow orders like we saw in New Orleans? The best advice I could give from my source is this: if and when they come for the guns, make sure you're not alone, and certainly stand your ground, because of all things we saw in New Orleans, the South, the gun belt, the Bible Belt, those people had given up their guns willingly with little fight. That was incredible. That was like a litmus test, a beta test for what was to come, and they learned a lot from that.
Well, I mean, my issue is the globalists love it if we get in a civil war, but it's a legal order. Your guns are yours even more in an emergency. That's what it's for, and it's illegal. I don't care if you get some order from some criminal president, whatever, to try to get our guns. That is, I'm going to tell the police military something. I know you know this, guys, listening. But listen to me. I know they've hired a lot of career officers that are globalists and stuff now, but I want to tell them something, too. Listen, they want a civil war to destroy you and damage you so they can bring in the I-4 NATO troops. That's in NLEO 9, NLEO 10. I've seen NLEO 11 that nobody's supposedly been able to see because they stopped releasing them after NLEO 10, a national level exercise. If they give you that order, they are trying to start a civil war, and it's a way to execute you. That's like Emperor Palpatine in Revenge of the Sith executing Order Number 66, but they want to wipe you out, sending you against the American people, taking out 2 of their enemies. Their own documents say their #1 enemies, returning veterans and gun owners. They hate people that are armed and trained and in the government more than anybody. That's why they've got this double narrative of, oh, the police and military are great, but they're the biggest enemy, because they know you can stop them. They're afraid, if things get really dark, of a military counter coup. And so that's why you see the double message there, so they can flip narratives, flip the script anytime they want. Listen, even if you say on the radio, okay, moving forward to get the guns, don't do it. Because let me tell you, you may get the first few hundred houses, resistance will start mounting. So I'm just saying, don't stick your hand in the badger hole.
Well, I couldn't agree more. That is absolutely great advice to the law enforcement officers. And, you know, I think, boy, I'll tell you, Alex, I have a fear. I fear the day that operation starts, because there will be blood in the streets. And I got to tell you, I was at a gun show last weekend. Every person I talked to there, I talked to like 15, 14 people. Every person walked out of there with ammunition or an extra gun. And they were sober. We're not talking about, you know, we're talking about average citizens with concern in their voice and knowledge that something is not right. Every person walked out of there with ammunition or a gun. Every person said, look, there's something wrong. There's something brewing. It was a totally different environment. 26 years before I went to my first gun show, there they were talking about deer stands and making deer jerky and venison. Today they're talking about repelling riots. It was just an incredible change to this morphing over 2.5 decades.
Unbelievable. We need to give out your website. It's great information, HomelandSecurityUS.com, HomelandSecurityUS.com. No affiliation with Homeland Security. But I didn't read your bio at the beginning. Douglas J. Hagmann is a founder and director of the Northeast Intelligence Network, CEO of a multi-state licensed private investigative agency, serving many Fortune 500 clients. We're going to get you on some time about the cases that have been in the news. You can talk about some of the great investigations you've done. It's just really interesting radio. A 27-year veteran conducting investigations in the private sector, has logged over 50,000 hours of covert surveillance in his career, is the author of Tactical Surveillance. He's a member of the International Counterterrorism Officers Association and possesses many law enforcement-related training certifications. He is used as an operational asset by the U.S. Department of Justice, the FBI, as well as the Pennsylvania and New York State police agencies. I won't go through your 8,000 criminal investigations or any of it, but HomelandSecurityUS.com. Doug, we'll talk to you again soon, obviously, in the next 20 days, or 19 days ahead of the election. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Visit Infowars.com and PrisonPlanet.com. When you're on the site, you can also tune in 24 hours a day to my daily radio broadcast. There's also a free iPhone app to listen to the syndicated radio show when and where you want.